Germany to jump to Russia, US deep state has lost. Tom is a regular contributor not only here at Russia Insider, but also at Seeking Alpha and Newsmax Media. Check out his blog, Gold, Goats and Guns, and please support his work through his Patreon, where he also publishes his monthly investment newsletter. How do I know this? I didn't write that title for clickbait or SEO purposes. I wrote that title because it's true. This article will be one part geopolitical treatise and one part tutorial on how to read what isn't said as much as what is said and, most importantly, who isn't speaking. We start with none other than Mr. CIA mouthpiece himself, George Friedman. Friedman is the head of Stratfor, one of the most influential Washington, D.C.-based intelligence organizations around. In the past I've subscribed to Stratfor simply to find out what narratives the U.S. government wants me to believe. Deep State Intelligentsia. Stratfor's intelligence is a masterful mixture of the truth wrapped up in a neat little ball spinning you like a fidget spinner. Friedman is the Dumbledore of Stratfor, speaking half in riddles. But as an insider with access to the real story and blithely, almost imperceptibly, not telling you anything of value, he guides you towards a particular side of the story. So, again, how do I know the deep state is losing? Friedman's latest piece for John Maldon's investment service hit Zero Hedge this morning, discussing the deplorable state of US/German relations. People like Friedman absolutely need to be read. But, read them with the most skeptical eye. The intelligence is in knowing where the focus will be next. So, Friedman talking about how the Germans are about to be seduced out of necessity by the evil Russians is significant. The focus of deep state policy will move away from Syria and even Iran to try and shore up their position in Germany, which has deteriorated alongside Chancellor Angela Merkel's popular support. Friedman lays out Germany's choice: figure out a way to salvage the EU or turn to Russia to get what it needs to grow. This is the essence of Germany's problem. But Friedman lays it out in the most intellectually dishonest way imaginable. And in doing so he makes the reader feel intelligent. That's the pernicious part. That's the master persuader part that Scott Adams talks about all the time. And that's the part you have to watch carefully. Deep state Russian lies. Friedman uses sleight of hand to tell us that Germany needs Russia because Germany needs Russian raw materials. It also needs the Russian market to be far more robust than it is so that it can buy more German goods. But Russia is incapable of rapid economic development without outside help. And with the collapse of oil prices, it needs rapid development to stabilize its economy. Germany needs Russia's economy to succeed, and what it has to offer Russia is capital, technology, and management. In exchange, Russia can offer raw materials and a workforce. An alignment with Russia could settle Eastern Europe in Germany's orbit. This all sounds good. The conclusion is true. But getting there is to suit the narrative. Germany needs strong exports to grow. Russia doesn't. Germany needs raw materials. Russia doesn't need technology. It has that technology, it hasn't deployed it to the private sector. Yet. Up to this point Germany has used Southern Europe as its dumping ground, trading Italian and Portuguese sovereign debt for BMWs. But that scheme has reached its limit and is tearing the EU apart. Germany doesn't want to stop this arrangement, nor does it want to pay its fair share of the burden for its resolution, that is debt relief for what it considers the Club Med countries. German politicians like Merkel have exploited this cynically for political gain, but now that we've reached the debt limit she's been exposed as nothing more than mouthpiece for US deep state policy, not the leader of Germany. The US wants a united EU, through NATO, to combat Russia geopolitically, and so everything is frozen in this Cold War stasis that is resulting in major populist uprisings against Merkel's enforcement of it. The costs are being paid by the younger generations now born into de facto debt slavery. Russia, for its part, is not the Russia of even 5 years ago. It continues to leverage its robust energy sector to fund the broader economy. Putin made the switch from subsidizing Rosneft and Gazprom to agriculture and manufacturing in 2015. Igor Sechin howled. Putin ignored him. Friedman knows this and yet peddles the same. Russia is a gas station on the way to China that still works on Congress. He also knows that this was always Putin's plan, to first stabilize Russia and then remake it. And that's what scares him and the neocons he represents. Putin used the energy sector to improve the lives of millions of Russians while waging a war of financial and territorial attrition against an aggressive US, then made a stand, Syria, and reversed the entire board while defending the strategic positions of its energy sector. While that played out, he redirected state funds away from energy at the crucial moment during the ruble crisis, which now can stand on its own, towards the broader economy. That part of the plan is just getting started. See my latest article at Seeking Alpha for a taste of what's happening. Once institutional investors realize that Friedman is selling them nonsense, the money will flow into Russia through a multitude of new channels that will help Germany make the right choice. Germany's real choice is not the deep state. Germany's real choice is, as Friedman suggests, to cut a new deal with Russia. Yes, Germany needs access to a vibrant Russian market, but that will happen with or without Germany thanks to China's Belt and Road Initiative and its own dramatic military and diplomatic victories in Central Asia and the Middle East. Germany has no choice looking west. Britain is a shell of a country hanging on by the skin of its financial sector teeth. Western Europe is tapped out and needs to exit the euro, devalue and default on its debt to begin again, and the US will struggle with the same problems once Europe is finished working through the worst of theirs. The only rational choice is Russia with its 17% debt to GDP ratio, intelligent, trained workforce, access to markets that will be the engines of growth past 2020. Its strengthening ties to the buffer states of Eastern Europe that will likely exit the EU. It is this choice that was truly reflected in the German election results last month, not the anti-immigration policies of Alternative for Germany (AfD). That certainly played a role, but Merkel's troubles in Bavaria are her real problems, and Bavaria wants normalized relations with Russia. And if she doesn't craft a cabinet that supports that, she won't be chancellor for much longer. And that's the real story Friedman won't tell you because it admits defeat. Germany looks to Russia, a blow to US deep state. Germany's delegation to Russia signals that Merkel is looking for new allies. A delegation of executives from major German corporations recently met with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Such delegations are not unusual. Sometimes it is routine, sometimes a courtesy. But occasionally, it has significance. In the case of Russia-Germany relations, such meetings are always potentially significant. Germany's unsteady relations. Two relationships are critical to Germany. One is with the European Union, the other is with the United States. Neither relationship is stable right now. Brexit, the Spanish crisis, Germany feuding with Poland, and the unsolved economic problems of Southern Europe are tearing the European Union apart. The Germans and the EU apparatus claim that none of these threaten the bloc. In fact, almost a decade after 2008, Europe appears to be achieving very modest economic growth. But the Germans know the dangers that lie ahead, even if Brussels does not. Many of the EU's problems are political, not economic. I wrote about the inherent weakness of Europe in my free ebook, The World Explained in Maps, which you can find here. Poland and Germany have butted heads over the tension between the right to national self-determination and EU rules. This is also what Brexit was about. Spain is locked in a dispute over the nature of a nation and the right of a region to secede, while the EU considers what role it should play in the domestic matters of a member state. And although Southern Europe's problems are economic, the fact that Europe has eked out minimal growth means neither that such growth is sustainable nor that the growth rate comes close to solving the continent's deep structural problems. As the de facto leader of the EU, Germany has to appear confident while considering the implications of failure. The German relationship with the United States is unsettled, and not just because of President Donald Trump's personality. The strategic and economic situation in Europe has changed dramatically since the early 1990s when the Soviet Union fell, Germany reunified and the all-important Maastricht Treaty was signed, but Germany's structural relationship with the US has not. Both are members of NATO, but they have radically different views of its mission and its economics. Germany has the world's fourth largest economy, but its financial contribution to NATO doesn't reflect that. Then there's Russia. The American policy toward Russia has hardened since the Democratic Party adopted an intense anti-Russia stance following the presidential election, more intense even than that of the Republican Party, which has always been uneasy with Russia. The Ukraine crisis continues to fester while U.S. troops are deployed in the Baltics, Poland, and Romania. This has widened rifts within the EU. Germany isn't interested in a second Cold War. Eastern Europe believes it's already in one. The Eastern Europeans are increasingly alienated from the Germans on the issue and more closely aligned with the Americans. At a time when German relations with key Eastern European countries are being tested, the added strain of U.S. policy in the region is a threat to German interests. Germany wants the Russia problem to subside. The U.S. and its Eastern European allies think the way to accomplish that is through confrontation. An alternative that Germany doesn't want. Germany's foreign policy has remained roughly the same since 1991, even as the international reality has changed dramatically. This is forcing Germany toward a decision it doesn't want to make. It must consider what happens if the EU continues to disintegrate and if European countries' foreign policies and politics continue to diverge. It must consider what happens if the US continues to shape the dynamics of Europe in a way that Germany will have to confront American enemies, or refuse to do so. This isn't just about Russia. We can see the same issue over Iran. Germany can't exist without stable economic partners. It has never been self-sufficient since it reunified. It must explore alternatives. The most obvious alternative for Germany has always been Russia, either through alliance or conquest. Germany needs Russian raw materials. It also needs the Russian market to be far more robust than it is so that it can buy more German goods. But Russia is incapable of rapid economic development without outside help, and with the collapse of oil prices, it needs rapid development to stabilize its economy. Germany needs Russia's economy to succeed, and what it has to offer Russia is capital, technology, and management. In exchange, Russia can offer raw materials and a workforce. An alignment with Russia could settle Eastern Europe in Germany's orbit. With the way things are going, and given Germany's alternatives, the Russian option is expensive, but potentially very profitable. But Germany has a problem with Russia. Every previous attempt at alignment or conquest has failed. Building up the Russian economy to create a robust market for German goods would certainly benefit both countries, but it would also shift the balance of power in Europe. Right now, Germany is militarily weak and economically strong. Russia is moderately powerful militarily and economically weak. An alignment with Germany could dramatically strengthen Russia's economy, and with it, its military power. Having moved away from the United States and de-emphasized military power in the rest of the European peninsula, Germany could find itself in its old position, vulnerable to Russian power, but without allies against Russia. On the lookout for new allies. The corporate chief's trip to Russia is not a groundbreaking event, nor does it mark a serious shift in German policy. But it is part of an ongoing process. As the international reality shifts from what Germany needs, Germany must find another path. In the short term, the United States is vulnerable to a cyclical recession, and hostility toward Germany is increasing in Europe, particularly in Eastern Europe. China is facing internal challenges of its own. There are few other options in Russia, and Russia is historically a